let me tell you a story. A story that to fully understand, you need all of the facts. The video you're about to watch took place over 100 days of hardcore Minecraft. And with that, let's take you back to day 1, where this nightmare really started. So this is where our story begins. On day 1, inside of a Minecraft jungle. My first task was what every Minecraft player's first thoughts and needs are. Where is a cave and what the heck am I gonna eat? Luckily for me, the cave part actually came quite easy. After getting the wood I needed just to make some basic tools, I was able to mine for the most of the day. And I managed to end it with iron armor. And the food problem, it was solved pretty easy with the randomly spawned melons inside of the jungle. What a world we live in. But even on day 2, after feeling positive about the world I was in and the progress I had already made in just one day, something felt wrong about the world. It didn't feel genuine. It felt like I was placed here with no option but to use what the world had given me. With that in mind, I spent the day finding a nice high tree to make camp. But even at the end of the day, just mining cobblestone, something felt wrong. It felt like I was being watched. I felt strange on this day. It was just the 3rd day, but I still had that feeling that I wasn't alone. This was a single player Minecraft world though. It was natural to feel jumpy, so with the feeling dismissed, I worked on what would probably be my temporary home. It really was not much at the minute, but it would definitely keep me safe. But when night hit and I was exploring for more, I found a sign placed in the mine that I had been in 2 days earlier, and it confirmed everything I was feeling. I was right, but some small voice inside of me told me that this wouldn't be the end. I really wanted to be productive on days 4 and 5 despite the feelings that I had, so I went straight into mining after getting what I thought was a good night's rest. But even that came with a risk. The world didn't seem like a world, not a natural one anyway. After mining around for what felt like forever, I luckily managed to find diamonds quite quickly. But at what cost? The world was strange. There was floating lava, there was floating ores, structures were half missing. It didn't feel right, but at the same time, I couldn't stop playing. I was drawn to keep playing. So that's exactly what I did. On day 6, I slowly realized that being stuck in a jungle came with a very long list of consequences. One of those being food. I knew that if I had any chance of survival that I needed a farm, so that's exactly what I started to do. I had a little think and bread was definitely my best bet right now. That's until I was able to find anything better. So I set myself to work, and after a little break or 6, maybe 10, it was actually complete. It wasn't much for now, but I felt a lot safer higher up than I did on the ground. It was like my subconscious was trying to tell me things. It's just I didn't understand what yet. I was 1/10 of the way through this series, but it didn't feel enough. What I had was good, but really wasn't great. It wasn't enough to rely on just a door to keep me safe if I actually wasn't alone in this world. Because if I was, would a door even help? I wanted to spend day 11 just gathering some basic resources and creating a fence gate around the bottom of my tree, just for security purposes. But also for that little feeling that I wasn't alone. It was small and it was there and I really didn't know what to do. And just like that, it's the morning of day 12, and I really did feel productive. And even though that is a very rare feeling, I mean, look at my upload schedule, I really wanted to make the most of it today. I realized that I was underwhelmingly geared, so with that in mind, I spent day 12 creating the best looking mine you have probably ever seen. I'm joking, it was ugly as anything. But after that, I spent days 13 and 14 just collecting gear, iron, diamonds, and hopefully the diamonds that I needed to get 3/4 diamond armor. And that's exactly what I did. I ended day 14 feeling like a proud father. Day 15 came around and I stopped mining just as the sun was rising. I felt fantastic. I had enough diamonds for some armor and the world around me felt right. I was protected. I was safe. That little voice just... it was gone. But once I got back up to the surface, that changed. There was an explosion at the bottom of my fence gates, which normally in any other Minecraft world really wouldn't worry me. But that little voice was starting to grow again. It could have just been a creeper, but something felt wrong. Something felt off even with just this. I blocked myself in my house straight away, and also patching the hole that was eventually left. I made that diamond armor straight away, and it couldn't have gone on any faster. I just spent the rest of the day hiding. I didn't know what to do. I was lost, and I was alone. Day 16, and it was another day and another opportunity opportunity. I woke up feeling better, but I still didn't feel safe. Not even after a good night's sleep. Not even high up in the trees, so I went with another thought in mind. What if instead of being really high up, I was inside of a cave? I spent a while looking for the prime real estate that I'd need to make this dream. And just like that, a little parrot actually did show me the way. We were going to be best friends, and I called him Barry, and right there, I knew he was what I needed. It felt good to make a friend, even if he couldn't talk back or quote Dream SMP quotes with me. With the location scouted and an idea in the back of that smart little head of mine, it was time to get to work. And it really did feel like work. But I really couldn't get this right. It took almost 4 days to even get a handle on what I wanted to create. I wanted to make this perfect, mainly so the comments wouldn't yell at me. But after I just started to get a handle, day 21 ended in the biggest disaster so far. I lost my best friend. He defended me for 4 days from the creatures of the night, and he died doing what he did best. Rest in peace, Barry. Thank you for showing me the way. I love you. I really didn't want to do anything on day 22. I took the time to get the resources I needed from my new humble abode. I made what I needed, and I buried my friend, and I grieved. Good night, Barry. Thank you for showing me the way. If someone does Ugandan knuckles, I swear to God. Coming into day 23, I felt like I hadn't progressed much. Even though we were almost a quarter way through this series, all I had actually done was build a house. So with that thought just in the back of my head, I headed into the Nether for what would be a very long trip, not only to find blaze rods, but the main goal, getting the key component for finding their end portal later on. Days 24, 25, and also that little pesky 26. It was here and I felt fantastic. I was really surprised it didn't actually take that long, much less time than I thought I would spend here anyway. But after a little stroll through fire and lava and all the other stuff, I managed to find my goal, a Nether fortress. Walking up to it with a skip in my step, I focused on the next task at hand, collecting those pesky blazes for their blaze rods. Now, I've seen a few Dream speedruns in my lifetime, so I knew that I needed 7 and didn't need 7. I probably needed more. I really hadn't figured out the details of everything. After collecting those blaze rods, it was time to head home. After a nice encounter with the locals along the way, it was definitely time to head back home. I felt like I was proud of myself. I'd made progress, I was less scared, but after heading through my Nether portal and heading to what I thought was home, I found exactly what I was scared of. The first time just felt like bad luck, bad RNG if you will. It could have been a creeper the first time, it could have just been a freak Minecraft accident, but the second time in only a few days, both in the locations that I had made camp, that little voice inside of me was growing fast. I needed to act quickly, I needed to rebuild, and I didn't feel alone anymore. Days 28 and 29 were exactly what I said literally about 10 seconds ago. It was the rebuild phase of the series. Being honest, I really didn't feel comfortable just hiding out in this small house, and the voice inside of me really didn't want me to either. And when I say rebuild phase, it took me the entire 2 days to work. And it was many phases of needing to smelt cobblestone into stone, making that into stone brick, and then replacing what I'd built and building it all over again. This process went on for a very long time. It felt like a childhood story. It went from the ugly duckling to the beautiful swan of this story. I felt so proud of myself watching it transform from a place that I was actually quite initially scared to live to somewhere I actually felt comfortable to stay. It wasn't home yet, but it would be. I had that feeling in my stomach and I was gonna go with it the entire way. Do you remember that hard work I was going on about? It was about 30 seconds ago. I said it was a rebuild phase. I was gonna work hard. It was nothing compared to what I had to go through in these 3-4 days. I was really starting to hate to travel back and forth repeatedly for my food source, and especially when it was bread, you know, it ran out quickly. So I decided to be the brave little Minecrafter that I was and do something about it. I decided the best course of action was to create a farm that would one day give me the food supply I desperately craved. On day 32 though, I was hit with a little surprise. Whilst mining a tree during my Minecraft 101 course, I found the reincarnation of my fallen friend, and after long deliberation, I decided to call him not Barry. It's original, I know. I spent day 33 and 34 decorating it to look pretty, because yes, it was productive, but it wasn't pretty, so I made it pretty. Please be nice to me in the comments. I spent days 35 to 38 just relaxing. I had a small plan in mind, but I really just put on some Netflix, turned the volume up to max, and went mining for every resource that I'd need later on. I wanted to spend a lot of time in this area. I wanted to make it a home, and it couldn't hurt to have a backup on backup on backup resource of diamonds. The world was still creepy to me, even through the jokes house, even through the house making. The world generation was something I'd never seen before. And in all my time playing Minecraft, I'd never experienced this. Even underground, it was completely different. I don't understand how to describe it, but the positive is it helped with finding diamonds. I ended day 38 with over 64 diamonds, and I was proud of myself. This would definitely keep me going in the long run, and I don't think I'd run out of diamonds anytime soon. Looking back at this, good job, me. And here it was, day 39 and also day 40, and looking back on this, I really did think these days would just be peaceful. I didn't really have a plan, but I took day 39 as it came, with an idea of making a fishing dock, so if I needed a well-deserved break, I could take it. And also at the same time, tried to fish up some valuable loot. I worked extremely hard getting these resources and building this, and no, I understand, it definitely wasn't pretty, but it worked for what I needed. I was finishing it up, feeling fantastic when I noticed it. Looking closer, it was no longer Barry on the gravestone, it was my name. Just when I thought I was safe, I was dragged straight back into this world of fear and despair, and the voice was growing, but something kept me here. I couldn't leave. It wouldn't let me. Day 41, and that voice was still there. The one telling me not to leave the jungle, but at the same time, I still had that explorer spirit inside of me. I still wanted to go out. I wanted to live my life, make this series the best it can be, adventure, and become the Minecraft hero that the story wanted me to be. I decided to search the jungle as much as possible, and after quite a long time, I found not one, ladies and gentlemen, but 2 jungle temples. Something I'd actually never found before, like in vanilla Minecraft, and I went into this with a newfound confidence. I felt like Indiana Jones. I went through, I was searching for traps and looting whatever I could find. I got very lucky and managed to find 3 diamonds in the first temple that I actually explored. I was feeling good, I was feeling confident, and I was so glad that I made this journey. Even though the second one was completely useless, I grabbed the dispensers and arrows from both, and with an immense sense of pride, I headed home. It just showed the progress I could make if I had the bravery to do so, and I was very proud that I did. After my inner Indiana Jones had worn off on days 42, 43, and 44, I was back home and just thinking about the next steps, which to me was definitely netherite tools. For now, I had awful enchants because I wasn't actually able to leave the jungle. It wouldn't let me. But I still wanted to experience what netherite tools were like anyway, so that's exactly what I went ahead to do. I felt safer in the Nether. It felt more like home than the overworld had ever done. After spending the day mining, I was able to come up with 8 ancient debris, meaning I could get 2 netherite ingots, giving me 2 netherite tools. But after going through the portal to come back home at the end of a long mining trip, I wasn't home at all. I was on a tree with a completely new portal, which was confusing, but at the same time, I was also lost. I thought it was a sign that the Nether was protecting me. It was keeping me away as much as possible. It was putting me away from the danger. I ended day 44 returning home and making my first netherite tools, my pickaxe and my axe. Still thinking in the back of my mind that this definitely wasn't over. I spent day 45 building my brand new bedroom. I really wanted this place to feel more like home and less like a place I was trapped in. The thought I had was maybe the more work I put into the world, the more it will like me at the end of it. I didn't know, but it was definitely worth a try. I also felt like throughout the series, I was getting better at designing at the same time. I know this wasn't the finished result of everything, but I was still happy anyway. I really needed a break coming into day 46, so whilst fishing, I had this feeling, I felt strange. Like the voice inside of me was growing, but part of me still wanted to fight it. Part of me wanted to adventure, it wanted to explore, it wanted to find the rarities of the world and leave this place and never come back. I wanted peace, and I got something far from it. Just like that, halfway there. If you had told me with everything going on in this series that I'd actually make it to day 50 of this hardcore 100 days, I really wouldn't have believed you for a second. I spent the 4 days away just focusing on that voice inside of me, the voice of exploration, the voice of hope, and with that feeling in mind, I made the decision to leave the jungle. But just to really prove to myself that I could explore, I could be safe, and I don't know what came over me, I just did it. I took a boat, and then I walked. And before I knew it, I was out. Day 51 started, and who knew the world around me had just so much to offer. These 4 days away were extremely eye-opening. Very early into day 51, I managed to find myself a village just on the outside of the jungle. It felt like a breath of fresh air. Finally, something had gone my way, and after having a little look around, I pillaged the entire place. I stole every possession they owned. I did some trades with some farmers and just kind of had a look around the place, and I even after that found a broken nether portal next to the village. It was definitely a different feeling than what I was used to. I was proud of myself, and I was enjoying this experience for the first time in a while. Nothing interesting happened for the rest of my exploration. I really just wanted to focus on enjoying myself. I wanted to focus on exploring, something that I was definitely lacking this series, just due to feeling confined to one simple place. And just like that, I was out. I was able to leave, and I was finally free of that feeling of fear. Day 55 came around, and I felt really brave and incredibly reckless in the next coming days. It was almost like I had this newfound feeling of confidence in myself that I couldn't explain even if I tried to. After my 4-day exploration, I decided to head home. I had an idea in the back of my mind, so I went back, grabbed the blaze rods that I got earlier, and the ender pearls that I had collected to make a few Eye of Enders. My goal here was to find the portal, not to fight the dragon, but just to locate it. But with the resources I had, I was only able to create 3 Eye of Enders, which at the time really didn't seem much, because if they broke, I was out of luck and I was stuck in the middle of nowhere with no way of knowing where I was going. So with that in mind, off I went to scout my next task. To my surprise, on day 56, after throwing these things for a very long time, this newfound confidence actually worked out. On the throw of my last eye, and this is going to seem, incredibly rigged, I had a feeling that I saw it stop, so I stuck with the gut that I had and I mined directly down from where it did. And after a while of wondering, there it was, the stronghold. I instantly did what I did best. I ran around looting everything I could find. And also, my goal was to locate the portal room. After finding it, I found out I needed 12 eyes to get to the end, something they could definitely wait for later. I also managed to locate the library on day 57, which means I could finally get that high-level enchanting I craved. With the place pillaged and all the loot in my inventory, I decided it was probably best for me to head back up to the surface and eventually head back home. Day 60 came around and I finally managed to get home after a few too many distractions, just in time for a good night's rest. The world to me was starting to feel right. Everything was coming together and it definitely started to feel like home. Coming into day 61, I still had the end on my mind. I wanted to get prepared sooner rather than later so I could complete this big task in front of me, because even at the time, I wasn't aware of what the future held for me. I put on my big Minecraft YouTuber pants and went to get the materials I needed to create 12 Eye of Enders. Day 62 was the easy part. I knew exactly where to get the required blaze rods, so that was my first task. And dare I say, I crushed it. After a little bit of thinking, I soon realized there was actually a very easy way for me to get the pearls that I actually needed to get the 12 Eye of Enders. And after heading home to grab some gold and smelt it, and also killing some endermen along the way, I traded with piglins up until day 63, where I got very lucky and managed to get 7 ender pearls from these trades, which was just the amount that I needed to complete the end portal. With spirits high and feeling a newfound of enjoyment, I headed home. Coming into day 55, I was so happy with myself that I had what I needed when it came to Eye of Enders. But at the same time, I didn't have the armor and the tools that I needed to beat that dragon that was waiting for me in the end. With this confidence surging through me, I decided the best way to combat this was to make myself an XP farm, which meant running again to a spawner that I had found much earlier in the series. It felt like a lifetime ago, looking back at it. I went straight there with the resources I needed, and after getting shot by skeletons for what felt like 45 minutes, I got straight to work making probably the worst EXP farm I've ever seen in my life. And on day 66, it was completed. It was finished. It wasn't efficient. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't nice at all, but it worked for now. With talks floating around about my efficiency, I decided on day 67 to make this new spawner EXP farm that I had created from the depths of nothing into my dedicated new enchanting room. I definitely knew this would save me a lot of time going back and forth between the two, so after making the most beautiful staircase I have ever seen in my life, I ran home to grab my enchant table. And on the way back, I needed to grab some wood for the bookshelves from the trees around the edge of the jungle. After making my enchant table and also all the bookshelves I needed, I started to get prepared to grind out skeletons to get level 30 enchants for our toughest task yet, the Ender Dragon. Day 68 and 69 were some of the best I've had yet. After a while of grinding out these stupid, annoying skeletons, I finally had the gear I needed and the enchants that I needed to finally start to feel safe. I'd felt safe a lot during this series. I was protected. I had level 30 enchants. My hard work was finally paying off. Before I headed off to the end to slay the task that was currently in front of me, I wanted to at least finish the unfinished parts of the house, because it was really annoying me just having a half-finished house just right in front of me. And on day 70, I did just that. I felt safe, I felt protected, I had gear, I could finally finish the task that I had procrastinated for so long. And I'm so glad that I did, because finally it was becoming what I had pictured all those days ago. And during this really just made me think of Barry and what he would have thought. It was finally time on day 71 and 72. I was prepared as I ever would be for this task, and with the confidence and safety I had from leaving the jungle, getting the gear that I needed, enchanting, everything finally was falling into its place. After spending day 71 traveling, I arrived at the portal on day 72, but with no feeling but pure excitement, like I'd earned this. I was ready. I put the item that I needed, I said goodbye to Not Barry, I placed my bed, and it was time. It was time for my hardest task yet, and this wasn't just an opportunity to prove to whoever else was in this world that I wasn't afraid, but also to myself. I had come far these 70 days, from starting the world full of fear and danger to now controlling it, making it my own and shaping it around me. This was my chance to prove to the voice that I made the right choice by leaving this jungle. And there he was, the Ender Dragon. It was time. It was a close fight, back and forth repeatedly. He took ages to perch, but finally I was starting to get some damage in. I was surging with confidence. I had done it with ease. It was the easiest task. What could I have ever have been worried about? I grabbed the XP from his body, and I grabbed his egg as my trophy. I also decided just to farm some ender pearls for the next task in front of me, which to me was the elytra. I had proved to myself that I could, and I did. I was amazed. After a little grinding of some enderman on day 74, I decided to go headfirst into my brand new task. I pulled through with absolute confidence that nothing could stop me into this new world. And just like that, it happened. The search for an end city that would give me what I wanted started. I felt powerful, and more importantly, I also felt in control. On day 75, I found exactly what I was looking for, but at the first sign, I was quite cautious. At first glance, it didn't seem to have the pirate ship-like building that I was after to achieve the power that I also wanted. But after a little while, it rendered in, and there it was. And it was waiting for me. It was surprisingly easy to get what I wanted with this newfound confidence and this newfound power and ability. I spent the entire of day 75 and 76 climbing, looting, and even levitating for a short while. But just before I knew it, it was there, and it was mine. It took a long time to get it, but after looting the chest next to it, the ability to fly just felt amazing. And after taking that and my new trophy in the dragon head above, and also looting every chest the place had, it was definitely time to head down. I basically spent all of day 77 mining the endstone for a project that I had in mind. This shulker box was really coming in handy for transportation, but before I knew it, I had the amount of endstone that I needed to make this project a reality. So I actually pulled into this very handy portal right next to the end city, and there I was, back in the overworld. It was the nighttime of day 78 by the time I decided to make a move back home. But as soon as I did, I felt something. That voice was back. As soon as I reached the surface, thunder and lightning struck. I slept through the night in a hole that I made to protect me and Not Barry, and I spent the rest of day 79 heading back to the place that I currently called home. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the idea that I wasn't alone. There was something else higher at play here, and the fear was back. Day 80 came around, and I was finally home. After what actually felt like a very long trip away, it also felt very refreshing to be back. I think the time away actually did me some good, and I did the Ender Dragon at the right time. And with that feeling came the need to reconstruct what I had made to make this house a permanent home. I spent days 80 to 82 creating another farm. Food was definitely a scarce resource, but I felt too lazy to drag cows thousands of blocks away just to make one tiny cow farm. And after the days I spent on day 80 and 81 flattening and building and collecting dirt, making sure everything was even, I had finally created a brand new melon and also a really nice wheat farm. And looking at this, I knew this would keep me going for ages. I was proud of myself and it actually looked above average, which, for me was actually quite nice. I spent the following 3 days of 83 to 86 doing what felt like the biggest task yet on this entire show. I was looking at my house and felt that it needed an upgrade. I myself had upgraded, which meant surely the house should too at the exact same time. Maybe an upstairs, maybe a balcony. I spent these days planning and architecting and also mining an area that I could hopefully use in the future. But the biggest plan I had to do with this reconstruction was a glass outlook of the world below me. Somewhere to look at my achievements, and these days were filled with mining, and 10 times more mining than that, and then replacing blocks and even more of that. It was a tough task, but I couldn't rely on anyone else to do it. More than anything, I feel like I'd become independent over these 100 days. It really was a nice feeling. And just like that, after days of smelting and creating stone brick, breaking and replacing blocks, stairs, architectural work, it was finished and it looked beautiful. Everything was finally coming together and I couldn't be happier, but at the same time, I knew something was coming. I still had that fear in day 87, the feeling that I hadn't had for a very long time in this series was finally back. The nights were getting longer, I couldn't sleep as much, the fear was definitely there, but in the back of my head, I needed to get stronger. Or at least feel that level of power that I could put above this feeling of fear. It's so confusing to say, but I decided the best way to complete that was to get more netherite. The better armor that I had, the safer I would feel, right? So with that thought in mind, it was through the portal that I went. And the long process started of mass mining netherrack in hopes of finding any ancient debris, if at all any. Hopefully at the end of it, there'll be enough for armor, but honestly, we'll see. As day 89 hit, and after a good maybe day and a half of mining, my pickaxe was actually coming to an end. It was very, very close to breaking. So I decided to take the ancient debris which I had, which was actually enough for 3 netherite pieces, so I had 12 ancient debris in total, and leave while I still could, and while I still had the pickaxe that I wanted to make netherite. I decided with that thought just to go straight home and start crafting the next piece of what I need. A brand new netherite pickaxe and the start of my armor. I spent day 90 making sure that I had the netherite tools. It was my goal coming into today, and it was one that I really wanted to be able to complete. I needed 2 things today to make this dream a reality, one of those being gold and the second being iron. The iron so I could make myself an anvil and repair my amazing pickaxe and make it a netherite one instead, and the gold to actually make the netherite. This was a really easy task. I headed to the site of my old home and went into the mine below. And just like that, before I knew it, I had the iron that I needed, and after a while, I also had the gold. I used the time of the ore smelting to reflect on this series and what I had achieved. I had this sudden urge for power, for control, to be something different than when I had started this series, because that feeling I never wanted to go back to, and I don't know why. Even now it confuses me. And after that reflective period, it was time to create the armor that could protect me, and with what I had collected, I managed to get a netherite chestplate, netherite leggings, and a brand new pickaxe. Day 91 and day 92. I felt like throughout I hadn't taken the time to reflect on the little things of this series, the little progress that I'd made. I'd done so many things, but it all seemed so big. I spent so long of this world controlled by fear and blinded by power that I wanted to take a step back. I wanted to create a room in this house that I could use for the memories, to enjoy the little things and for my keepsakes. A place to put the trophies I collected through the series and being able to look back and enjoy at what we had done. It was a nice process, you know, it was needed, it was relaxing, it was something different. This house had come far over these 90 days. From building something out of fear and necessity to something out of joy and happiness. After making what I thought was actually a very nice room, I ended day 92 farming the wheat I had saved up. I knew this farm was a good investment at time, and to anyone watching, please don't laugh at my buildings, I'm sensitive. Day 93, and that feeling was back. I buried not Barry today. I realized since the end that that's what I was missing. I hadn't seen him since the end. I can really only think he got lost in the storm on the way back and just couldn't find his way home. Thank you for the memories, my friend. I'll remember you both always. And the closer I got to the end of the series, it's really the more closure I felt. I really felt like I'd been part of a nightmare. A world that felt normal, but I also just felt haunted. I felt not alone for the majority of this. Regardless of that, I spent the day holding my trophies up with pride. I'd survived, I deserved a break, and very soon I'd get one. As we sit and close on the end of this series, it's important to think back. Throughout these 100 days, I've really had time to think, not only experiencing it the first time, but voiceovering the adventure afterwards. And through all the thinking, there was only one logical conclusion. It was a part of me doing this to myself. The question was why? Why would I stop myself leaving a Minecraft jungle? Stop myself adventuring and stop myself having fun on this series and entertaining myself? But from day 101 onwards, I knew I'd figure it out. I really just spent the day focusing on taking in what I'd created, the memories, and also the series, and at the same time keeping this alter ego part of me as dormant as I needed to. It was time to rest, and I'll see you all soon.